Welcome to another video. Alright, today we're talking about pins. Now, an absolute pin is when a piece is pinned to the king and can't move without exposing the king to a check from an opposing piece on the same line or diagonal. So can we pin the knight to win it? What would you do? Pause it if you want to think about it, and now I'm going to give you the answer. You put the bishop right there, and you see the knight can't move because it would put the king in check. So now you can just take the knight, okay? Can you set up an immediate absolute pin? Notice that the king and the rook are on this same diagonal right here. So wouldn't it be nice to have a bishop that can get on the dark squares? Look at that. Oh yeah. Take a free rook right there. Again, notice that the queen and the rook are on the same diagonal. What can you do? Well, what about move the bishop right here? And now you could take could have taken that rook. All right, now notice that the knight and the king are in the same line as this rook. If the knight tries to move out of the way, it would put the king in check, so he can't move. And knowing this, you can attack the knight and take it. Okay. Now we're talking about pins now. Now this pawn right here looks like it's protecting this knight, but it's really not, because this queen is aiming right at that pawn. So that pawn really can't move because it would put the king in check. So knowing this, you could bring your bishop down and take that knight. Look at that free piece right there. Okay, now here's another pin. This one's a little more complicated. Is there a way to win a pawn in this deal? Pause the screen if you want to, because I'm going to give you the answer now. The answer is moving the knight right here. You could take that, because if the rook were to come down and take your knight, you could take the rook, and then if that knight takes, you could come down and take. So it's a big mess. Now we were thinking, what happens? Can the knight just take this pawn for free? Let's see. Knight takes. What happens if the knight takes back? Well, remember, the knight was pinned. Leaving this rook exposed. So now the rook can come and take, and if this rook tries to take, he's going to get taken. So now it's an endgame with a rook versus knight. Rooks are better than knights, especially in the endgame. White takes. What happens if the rook takes this time? Okay, well then the white rook can take the black rook. If the knight tries to take the rook, look, see, he was pinned. Again, it's an endgame rook versus knight endgame. Okay, so what's the best move really for black when white takes? The best move is right there. Got a free pawn right there. Now let's see. Is there a pin? Where is the pin? Well, you've got a bishop here, and he's aiming right at the king there, but this pawn is blocking. So that means that pawn is pinned to the king, which means he's not really protecting this pawn, which means the queen could come down and say check. Now the king can't go here or here or here We need something to check the king with. What about this? Nice. Okay, last one. Multiple pins here ready to be exploited. We should be able to get white's queen. How can we get white's queen? Do we see potential pins here? Well, pause the screen and see if you see a potential pin. Okay, because now I'm going to reveal, let's reveal a thought right here. If this rook were to take this pawn, this queen would not be able to recapture because the black queen is staring right at the king. So let's see what happens. Rook takes, the king is in check. The king cannot go here because he's in check by the rook. The queen cannot take the rook because she's pinned by the black queen. And the queen can't come down and take the black queen because white has to deal with this check. So it's white's turn. And the only move is for the king to move. Okay, so now we see another potential pin. Notice this pawn right here seems to be guarding this square, but it's not really guarding this square because this black bishop is aiming right at the king, which means this pawn cannot move. This pawn cannot move, or else it would put the white king in check. Knowing that, black can put the rook right here. The white queen is now pinned. If the white queen tries to move here, 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 or here, it puts the white king in check from this rook. So the only move that the white queen can do would be to take the rook. And then black just got the queen. We know that the white queen can take the rook. The game plays on, but they just lost a queen. In this situation, the pawn cannot take the rook because it's pinned by the bishop. So if anything's going to take the rook, it's going to be the queen. But then the queen is lost. Is there a way to save the queen? Well, no. Let's say the king says, well, I'm going to get out of the pin and see what happens. Let's say the king tries to go here. Well, the problem with that is the black queen can come down. And now it's checkmate. It's not just you lose your queen, you just lost the game. Okay, so let's say the king decides to get out of the pin by going to this square. Well, unfortunately, again, the black queen can come down and the game's over. Checkmate. So it turns out that the best response for white here is to get the rook, sacrifice the queen, but the game's not over. So white is still in the game.